Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the first day of the Dublin Fall Conference. My name is Yelena, and I'm happy to spend the rest of the conference day with you. Hope you're enjoying our trip to Moscow so far, because, by the looks of it, the city is amazing. Well, as always. Sending a huge hello to our sponsors, Yandex Advertising Network, whose headquarters actually located in Moscow. All right, let's see what we've got lined up for the rest of the day. We're going to start with a session by Ketchapp, followed by presentations by Unity and Zaptalab. And to conclude the first day of the show, we're going to welcome speakers from Rovio and Facebook Gaming. Hope you're all ready. All right, let's welcome our first speaker, Samy Guillemin, the third-party coordinator at Ketchapp. Samy, do we have you with us? Hello.
Hey, Elena. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, beautiful. Hello. How are you today?
Doing great, thank you. It's my first time actually speaking at the White Night, so
Oh,
great moment
really?
for me.
Oh, that is so fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Where are you located, by the way? I assume not in Moscow.
Actually, I left Paris for a few days. I'm currently in the Dijon, Burgundy, so it's the
Oh,
capital of
sounds so
good
nice.
wine and mustard. If it.
Just please speak French. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. We're super excited to listen to your presentation, and the studio is all yours.
Great. Well, our topic of the day is kind of Ketchapp's answer to a question we've heard quite a lot recently from a lot of studios and developers. And basically, that question is it still possible for me to get a piece of that big hyper casual cake, or am I too late already? And this is a very relevant question. I mean, Ketchup pretty much started this hyper casual party back in 2014. And since then, pretty much every year, we've been warned that hypercasual wasn't going to survive. And many reasons were mentioned, and some pretty good ones. The rise of the competition, hypercasual is definitely not the blue ocean it used to be. The consequences of this competition with the unavoidable rise of the CPIs, or the fact that innovations like 5G and cloud gaming would drive people away from hypercasual games. And all these arguments are partly true, they make sense. And yet, the year is 2020 and the market is still alive and growing. Just one quick number here, based on an Iron Source study, the hyper-casual market will generate around $3 billion in 2020, which corresponds to a 33% increase compared to last year. So the question becomes, is that growth sustainable? And where is the market going? And I would like to start by addressing the most serious concern of the people who claim that the end of hypercasual has come. And I'm speaking about the global rise of the user acquisition costs. And it is partly true. Again, super scalable 5-cent CPI are less common than they used to be. However, low CPIs still exists. And if you need a proof of that, you can just take a look at the iOS top chart at any time. And what you'll see that at least half of the top 10 free games in the US are hyper-casual, that hyper-casual games are everywhere in the top 100 free games, and that they can stay here for a month before to be replaced by, most of the time, other hyper-casual titles. So to stay here that long, these games need to be profitable. And looking at the way they monetize, it implies low CPIs. And beyond that, actually, higher CPIs are manageable. Top publishers developed many tricks to help you lower the CPIs of your game and to make your game more attractive to a broader audience. Among those tricks, you have things like playable ads creations or creatives optimizations with, for example, the use of pop culture famous reference, live actions, as well as some famous tricks, like in this quick example. The game is Puzzle Blast, one of our last releases. And here is a raw gameplay video. So yeah, very raw, and it got the 70 cents CPI, which is of course too high for the hyper-casual standards. And in this second video, we applied what is now a very famous trick in the hyper-casual industry. We displayed a very simple level and completely failed in the dumbest possible way to complete it. And the frustration that it generates usually leads to users clicking more on the ad. And yeah, $23, 23 cents CPI in the end. So yeah, just a quick introduction to say that low CPIs still exist and that we have multiple ways to help you decrease a high CPI. But that being said, we can't deny that the market is evolving and that it invites us to adapt our strategy. And well, if it becomes harder to secure very low CPIs, then we'll focus on increasing the revenue generated by the game. In other words, we'll work on improving the LTV. So this is our new focus, creating more engaging hyper-casual games on all of their key aspects. First, on the content side, by building deeper gameplays, easily scalable content, and richer meta features. And to also work on the monetization side with the smarter monetization, leveraging user-friendlier and more engaging ads opportunities. And creating deeper games starts with building deeper gameplays. Basically, you add depth to your game when you offer to the users the opportunity to choose their in-game approach when they face a specific in-game situation. And by doing so, you drastically increase the interest and the replayability of your game. To put it simply, you'll know that your core gameplay is deep enough when the users won't mind replaying the same levels over and over again because they will feel that each attempt can be different from the previous one. And there are, of course, different ways to create depth. It can be with risk-reward mechanics, like we did in Master Thief, where basically you have the choice between uh, a safe, silent approach or a wild, risky rushing to the finish line one. You will see that both of these approaches are actually displayed in this video. It can also be directly linked. Depth can also be added via the core gameplay of your game. For example, the drawing mechanic is known as a potentially very deep one because of the freedom it gives to the users who can express kind of freely their creativity. A good example of that is Lion Studios Inc. Or you can add depth via some in-game elements and the level design. For example, in our last release, Groundbreaking, in this situation, you can choose either to directly shoot at your targets or to make the building collapse to make it kill your enemies. But yeah, being able to create deep and sticky core gameplay in 1 or 2 weeks definitely remains a key, but this is only a start. And it's also more important than ever to anticipate the way you'll make your game grow after that. How will you add variety and content to your game without spending too much time on it? And on this side, all the tools and tips you can use to save development time are useful. And here again, it can be achieved in many different ways. First, on the automation side, for example, like our friend from Purple Monster did with Puzzle Blast, where you can automatically transform any PNG file into a 3D model ready to be used in game. Or you can also work on procedural level generation, like we did in Master Thief, to create an infinite level, an infinite amount of levels. And beyond the automation question, there's also the reusability one. Skins, Unity assets, UI elements, every pieces of games that you can reuse from previous projects are of course more than welcome. And it's also a great way for you to make sure that every project, even the one that you don't release, are actually useful. So yeah, there are many techniques you can use here: recycle, refresh, automate, and you'll be able to scale your game content to make it richer faster. And speaking of making the game richer, hyper-casual games also have to become richer on the meta features side. So all these features that are coming in addition to your core gameplay are indeed becoming more important to keep players engaged on the long run. And yeah, these features remain quite secondary and minimalistic in the early days of hyper-casual. But we've seen and pushed many innovative features in recent games. And to be honest, most of them are actually kind of classic meta features from casual or even mid-core games, but hyper-casualized, so simplified to their maximum to only keep their most efficient and addictive part. And in hyper-casual, the two most important functions of these features are to give opportunities for the players to first personalize their game experience, but also, and more importantly, to showcase their progression. For example, with features like galleries or light tycoon features, where the players can personalize and collect different rewards as they progress. So the idea is, well, to first let them see what they've already achieved in game, and also to let them imagine how they could still progress. And you could also, of course, go in that direction with sort of light RPG stats. The point here is to make sure that the players can at least upgrade visually the different items they collect in game. But that being said, keep in mind that your audience in hypercasual is potentially composed of a huge number of non-gamers. So you need to guide them at every step to not overwhelm them with too many choices. Keep it simple, intuitive. The UI definitely has a big role on that side. And what's actually good with these richer meta features is that they actually have a double positive impact on your LTV. First, by boosting the mid and long-term retention, and then by showcasing more monetization opportunities. And speaking of monetization opportunities, deep hypercasual also implies smarter monetization, rather based on rewarded videos than on classic interstitials. And there are two main reasons behind that. First, rewarded videos do not hurt the retention as they answer a player's need. Players actually choose to watch these ads to unlock something in game. And second reason, for business reasons, basically, you earn more money when you showcase a rewarded video than when you showcase an interstitial. So now the question becomes, how do you showcase these rewarded videos in a smart way? And well, there are many creative ways to push rewarded videos opportunities in your game. Here are all the most classic ones. So Revive, um, currency multiplier, you can use them to unlock skins or to increase incremental stats. These are the basic, like the fundamentals that you could push in any game. And from the test we ran at Ketchapp, the most interesting feature among these ones is actually the fill box. So the concept is that at the end of each level, you see that you're getting closer from unlocking a skin, which motivates the player to keep playing. And once the 100% is reached, you need to watch ORV to unlock the skin. It is both a nice way to increase the number of rewarded videos by daily active users in the game, but also a great way to increase the playtime. But yeah, keep in mind that all these features are only the fundamentals, the basics that you can add to pretty much any games. The best rewarded videos opportunities is actually the one that is unique and directly linked to the core gameplay of your game. A great illustration of that is actually Slap Kings from Game Guru and Lion Studio. Um, there are plenty of ways to get super creative on that side, and we're also here as a publisher to help you with this. And since we spoke about getting the meta features richer, it's also important to mention that these features, in addition to boosting the long-term retention, offer many ways to push for clever rewarded videos opportunities. For example, you can optimize the classic daily missions to push more rewarded videos opportunities like we did in Master Thief. You can here skip each mission if you find them too hard or if you don't have enough time to complete them. And once you've completed the mission, you can watch a rewarded video to unlock the big legendary skin featured in it. You could pretty much use the same trick with daily rewards. This second example is taken from Mempic and Estoti's last release, Road Glider, or in Builder Tycoon features that are really a great way to push for more rewarded videos opportunities. This example is from Prison Master from Legendary. And yeah, basically you can customize your house with different accessories. And of course, the most appealing one, if you want to unlock them, you have to watch a rewarded video. So yeah, rewarded videos are the must on the ad monetization side, and there are plenty of smart occasions to implement them to improve the user's experience. But remember that this is only the visible part of the monetization iceberg, and that you also need a lot of work from a talented monetization team to maximize your ad revenues, basically. For example, by negotiating with different ad networks, by optimizing your bidding strategy and the technology and SDKs behind that. And this is, of course, another point where an experienced publisher can help you. So in the end, I guess you understood in this first part that hypercasual is still very lively and that it's just um, evolving to become something more polished and deeper. So what if it was actually the best time for you to join the hypercasual party? And the first reason for that is that you, as a developer, have the chance to face an incredibly rich offer from the publishing side. There are around currently 20 top publishers in the hypercasual world, and it gives you an amazing opportunity to actually test and choose the right partner. And by right partner, I mean, of course, the one that answers the best your specific needs as a studio. But beyond these specific needs linked to each studio's specificity, there are still a few things you might want to clear up before jumping into an agreement with a publisher. And the first and the most obvious one is, of course, the money. What are the terms? Are you being fairly rewarded, whatever the success of your game? For example, are there any revenue caps at some points? Keep in mind on that topic that a real long lasting hit can remain extremely profitable during more than 5 years. So it would be a shame to miss this just because you accepted an upfront without revenue share or with a very small one. Then there's the transparency question on all the relationships aspects. You want to make sure to clarify all the terms of the collab before you start working with the publisher. Like, do you remain the owner of your game's IP? Are you legally covered against copycats? What happens if your game doesn't pass the first test? Is it yours again, or is the game stuck for a certain amount of time with the publisher? You really want to make sure to clarify all these points before you engage yourself in a publishing relationship. And finally, on the human side, like, what do you expect from the relationship you'll have with the publisher? Will you be in direct contact with a dedicated publishing expert all along the process and whatever your experience? Will you get some feedback on your game even if it doesn't pass the first tests? Will you be treated like a human being or like a creating prototype machine? Well, this is something that you need to clarify before you enter a relationship with the publisher. And on our side at Ketchapp, what we think that matters the most is that whatever the results of your tests, you actually have to learn something in the process. And this is actually our next point, the hypercasual testing process. And this is probably where you can learn and get the most of the hypercasual's philosophy. In short, prototype fast, test fast, and fail or scale even faster. More concretely, the idea here is to test your early prototype as fast as possible to get an idea of its potential. That way, after around 1 or 2 weeks of prototyping, you're able to know if you should drop the project to focus on a new one, or if on the contrary, it's promising enough to be improved further. And then there are two ways of improving your game that we usually combine actually. On the game design side, we will coach you to improve the in-game KPIs by polishing the 3 Cs, adding strategic content, sharing our experience of the markets or case studies, and on the marketability side, by working on our side to optimize the creatives to lower the acquisition costs. And after this iteration, we retest the game to see how the main KPI is improved, and we can repeat this iterative process a few times, usually not more than 3 times, but it can definitely vary depending on the project until we reach our targeted metrics. And when the core metrics are secured, we move to the monetization side to make sure that the game is as profitable as possible while preserving the user experience. And once we've found the best balance, well, it's time for the worldwide launch. If it goes well, this whole process can take around 3 to 4 weeks or even a month. But yeah, the main point is that this agile, data-driven, and iterative process is becoming more and more a sort of industry standard in the whole video gaming industry. It is now used on projects of totally different scale, and yeah, from bigger mobile games to big AG titles. So whatever you plan for the future of your studio, learning and integrating this process can only benefit you. And hypercasual is probably the best way for you to concretely test and learn on, let's say, human-sized projects. And even beyond that process, there are so many things you can learn quicker than anywhere else in hypercasual. All the key principles of hypercasual can benefit to any types of production, actually, as they're basically the best practices of game design, but concentrated to their maximum. The marketability question, for example, is becoming a major strategic point for even AAA games. So learning on small projects how to build appealing core gameplays totally makes sense, whatever your ambitions in the future. With the marketability questions comes the freshness one. Um, the necessity to focus on fresh ideas to stand out and differentiate yourself in this crowded entertainment industry. Another transposable rule from hypercasual is that in 2020, nobody has time for tutorial anymore. The best possible tutorial is actually when the game is intuitive and clear enough to not have any tutorial or extremely light ones. And in good hypercasual games, the players is always one click away from jumping into the action, and the controls are intuitive enough to make sure that the players can enjoy the game, well, the moment they start playing it. And finally, when all these points are secured, you also need to make sure that your core loop is strong and sticky enough to engage the players. So yeah, to sum up, on working on hyper-casual projects will help you gather in a few months the experience that you would probably have gathered in many years working on bigger projects, and it will give you a very broad understanding on all the key aspects of launching a video game. So yeah, these learnings are gold, and this whatever your experience or will for the future. And indeed, for hypercasual can be a great shortcut for newcomers, like for a small team or even a solo developer. It's a great way to start your hypercasual journey and yeah, your life of developer while preserving first your freedom of creativity and also without taking too much risks. You get to learn from experts, from top tier publishers, which is probably the best way for you to learn and gather experience faster than you would ever have on other markets. And yeah, in a few months working in hypercasual, you'll get both a great understanding on how the things work and also a great chance to get a huge amount of money if your project succeed. And on the other side, if you are industry veterans, it can also be very refreshing for you to start your hypercasual journey as a side quest. First, by diversifying your activities, you will reduce the risks for your team and your studio, and it can also bring a pretty welcomed breath of fresh air for your teams. Actually, internally at Ubisoft, so Ketchapp is a part of Ubisoft now, and um, and we've run a few experiments with, let's say, more casual or even mid-core Ubisoft studios, so that when they are uh, between between bigger projects, they can work with us on hyper casual. And the learnings that you can get from this kind of experience is actually quite stimulating for your whole team to make them to make sure that they always have in mind the last insights to keep on top of their job expertise, basically. And of course, as an industry veteran, all the previous experiences that you have will benefit you if you go to the hyper casual. So yeah, in the end, we believe that hypercasual is and will remain a massive opportunity to learn fast and to open their mind to all the actors that would like to jump into it. And you will have understood it. For us, the hypercasual is far from being dead, and it's still time to join the party. Because, well, maybe we're only at the beginning of the new phase of this party. And that's it for my presentation today. I hope you guys will find it useful. If you want to start your hyper-casual journey, feel free to get in touch, or even if you just want to have a quick talk. And otherwise, I guess it's Q&A time.
Thank you very much, Samy. Thank you for a great presentation. It's lovely to have you in the studio. We have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Cool. You've actually mentioned that hyper casual is a shortcut for newcomers. So basically, you said that you can come up with a game or like small studio and do it as a side project. But what would you say about the competition on the market in this area? Isn't it tough to actually enter through that?
Actually, hypercasual is extremely dynamic. So what was true 1 month ago can be, well, totally outdated today. So when you join the hypercasual with a fresh perspective on it, of course, you will learn to integrate and learn about the basics. But I mean, if you choose the right publisher, we are here for that, to help you to get these codes and to catch up with the fundamentals, like the things that you absolutely need to have in mind. And then what's really interesting with the hypercasual market is that it really rewards the trendsetters, the people who actually succeed in thinking out of the box. So joining the hypercasual party, even if it's a competitive one, remain to us a quite interesting way.
Hmm. Thank you very much. And quick question, another one. When in collaboration with developers and publishers, when you're a developer, especially you're just starting, you have this great idea in mind and you really want to push it through and to make it actually alive. But what if it doesn't exactly work with the market and the demand at the moment, and the publishers tell you to actually change it, or like, I don't know, change the direction, basically? What should you do? Stick to your previous vision, or actually listen and change things?
Well, at Ketchapp, our opinion is quite clear on this side. Our collaboration with the developer is a discussion. So if a developer or a studio shows us a nice prototype, but that but if according to us it doesn't fit the current market trends or the state of the market at the moment, we'll let you know. Like, we'll provide you some feedback telling you that, okay, maybe this prototype has already been done, or maybe it's not something that in our opinion could work in 2020. And since it's only intuition, we need to verify that with the testing phase. That's why we test pretty much everything. Like, we need the data to make sure that, okay, this idea doesn't have potential. And well, if you don't want to listen to if you don't trust the publisher's feedback, well, I guess the test results will speak for themselves.
Hmm. Thank you. And has it ever happened to you guys that actually the projects you looked into, they probably didn't have exactly perfect metrics for you, or and genuinely there was a lot of work to be done still? Has it ever happened that you actually still took them on, to because you liked it?
Well, the question is a bit tricky actually. So I would say that in general, data rules. Like, even if we, as human being, we can fall in love with a project, we would really like it to succeed, and it's normal, I guess. But yeah, in general, I would say that if all the KPIs, and especially the marketability ones, are bad, it is kind of useless to try to improve the prototype, or you have to be ready to make quite important changes. But if only one KPI, for example, is promising, and that you really believe in this project, and if you really want to push it further, again, the collaboration is basically a discussion. So we can
Hmm.
be pretty open to working with you to improve other points, as long as we see that there's at least some hope, let's say.
Hmm. Thank you very much. And do you have maybe just short advices of, I don't know, top three on top of your head, what developers should keep in mind when working with a publisher?
Well, that's a very broad question, actually. On like, there are many different aspects of the collaboration with the publisher. So first, I think that the main point you want to have in mind is, before the collab, what I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Like, am I satisfied with the way I'm working with the publisher right now, with the terms, with the transparency? This is the first point. Then don't forget that publishers are also human being, and that, well, it is in both of your, well, both in your and our interest to make it work in the best possible way. Like, we share the same goal, and when we tell you that something doesn't fit the current market trends, for example, don't take it personally. Like, it is only an advice, and our goal is to help you to achieve successes and to create great games. So yeah, have this in mind. And the third one is, yeah, hypercasual is a tough world. So be ready. It's a bit linked to the questions, the previous question, but be ready if necessary to kill a project, even if you really liked it, to not spend too much time on it, because, well, data remains king.
Hmm. Thank you very much. And the last question for today. You've mentioned actually the KPIs. Could you please elaborate a little bit more on what are the most important ones from your point of view?
Sure. So basically, and since it's the hyper-casual business model,
Hmm.
we are looking for quite low CPI. It's the first step. We want to make sure that the game is marketable to a broad audience. So having a low CPI, at least below 30 cents, is usually a key. Then all the components that will shape your LTV are crucial. So you have the playtime, very important. Is your game sticky enough to make the players stay in the game for a long time, to play for long sessions? Then you have the retention question, so quite short term compared to other segments of the market. But yeah, are the players still here after one day? Are they still there after 1 week? And if possible, well, even for a longer period. And finally, you can consider, of course, monetization indications, like, but it's further in the process, but like the number of rewarded videos that you're able to showcase to the players, to one player in one day, for example, is also a great indication.
Hmm. Thank you very much for the valuable information. I'm sure you'll be happy to answer the questions afterwards. So
Sure.
please, dear audience, if you have any questions, please send them through the WN Hub. You can use your um, direct messages and ask them there. Thank you very much for joining us today in the studio. It was a pleasure to have you here. Have a
Thanks
good
a lot.
day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.